Password accepted.
Hey guys, it's your girl Cameron and I'm back at it again with another video. And today we're going to be talking about, and I'm going to review Cheers Season 2 that just came out on Netflix. I watched the first season, so I am a fan of the show. And I want to get into the drama. I want to get into the people on the show. I really want to do like a good little breakdown for you. So grab a snack because we're going to talk. We're going to have a good time. And I really would love if you guys would comment down below. What did you guys think of Cheer? What did you think of Season 2? So I'm going to give you guys every little bit that I can because I have a lot of thoughts and opinions on this season. Please hit that subscribe button if you want to see more content like this. Thank you guys so much for watching. And without further ado, let's just get straight into the video. Let's go. To do a quick little synopsis of the show, Cheer follows Navarro, which is a JUCO or a junior college, and this is where the show basically started off, even Season 1. However, Season 2 not only follows Navarro Cheer, but it also follows Trinity Valley Community College, or TVCC, and their journey to the NCAA championships. And Navarro is that team that has won 14 championships, so highly successful, and TVCC this season is presented as the rival team who had a great winning streak and had a name, but Navarro kind of found that sauce, right? And they just haven't been able to keep up. TVCC has not been able to push themselves over the edge to get that first. I have to say, I really loved how they added this rivalry to the show. When I was on Twitter kind of peeking at what was going on and seeing how people felt, a lot of people were very irritated and annoyed with the fact that TVCC was being highlighted. But honestly, from the first episode that they were introduced, I was interested. I felt like the show needed that to be successful Season 2, right? You don't want a series to fall flat or be a repeat. They covered 2 seasons in 1 season. So what I mean by that is cheerleading season, I think it was 2019 to 2020, but COVID hit. So they didn't go to NCAA championships. And then they covered the 2020-2021 season. So I was really confused on how they were going to do that, but they tied it together pretty well. And the docuseries is running as a chronological type of situation. So just to touch a little bit more on the rivalry between Navarro and TVCC, honestly, and I'm sure a lot of you guys will say this, but it definitely gave me the Bring It On feels. TVCC were the Clovers, right? Like they had this feistiness, determination, and they were out for a vengeance. Like it was not amicable between them. They were like, F the judges, F them, we're better than them. Very like Clover's energy, which at first I was really put off by it. I really kind of started to appreciate that energy that they brought to the table. And then Navarro was like the Toros. Let's go Toros. Yay! Woo! Look at that. Right, like that girl next door, all-American, classic cheerleader who wins everything. Now, of course, it doesn't completely reflect it. In the movie, Bring It On, I liked both the Toros and the Clovers. You know, at that last competition, you're kind of fine with whoever wins. And I kind of found myself getting there. So we'll get to that and we'll talk about it. Before we get into anything, keep this in the back of your mind. I think the docuseries did a great job of really trying not to completely control the narrative. And what I mean by this is they did a great job of covering real time and true emotions. So they wouldn't try to just make this blow up of drama happen at once. These nuances, they would pick up on all of those things that would just overall add to the story. To me, it didn't feel like there was necessarily a villain.
Like, I'm not a bad person. I'm not a bad person.
Great job of kind of showing a natural progression of the story and showing life as how it is, right? Nothing's ever just good or bad. Realistically, you're gonna have that juxtaposition, and I really liked how the rivalry brought that out and that the docuseries portrayed that. The documentary began with Navarro's successes. So Cheer Season 1 was a hit. So Navarro was on the Ellen Show. They were doing red carpets. They were doing talk shows. They were doing anything they could do, they were doing. You name it, they did it. And I like how it didn't slight your opinion on it, but it kind of presented it like, hey, you're watching like, this might be a problem, right? Because they're trying to spread themselves so thin, which later becomes a reality. It was almost kind of like fame killed the star. But once you get so high and you get to the top, the only way you can go is down. Because they even talked about certain teammates who were not featured as much. And that first season felt like they were kind of just, hey guys, I'm here. But they were like, hey, it feels like it's kind of them and then there's us. Like, we're just here to cheer and they're here to do sponsorships. So it was interesting to see that. And I like the honesty. Don't shy away from it because that's real. I do think that they were becoming wrapped up in that attention. Their heads might have been getting a little big, but Navarro had a reason for their head to be big. I mean, the school had won 14 NCAAs and that previous team was coming off of a win. So hey, you know, you can act like you're the shit when you're the shit. Now then, TVCC was quickly presented as the opposing school. Vontae, who's the coach, was basically saying, oh, they're over there like, you know, in commercials and doing all this and blah 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 blah. He was setting himself to be like, we're working. Like, if you want to come to TVCC, it's not about the fame, it's about cheer. So they were already trying to kind of create like a division. Now that I kind of set up the scene, I want to talk about the different people. So we're going to start with Monica, who's the head coach of Navarro. Unpopular opinion, guys. I just really don't resonate with Monica like that. I think she's a nice woman. I just, you know, I didn't feel that connection in that pull with Monica like I think a lot of other audience members did of the show. But she's kind of like a motherly figure for everyone. And I do respect that. And she was determined to maintain a great team. I think everybody gives Monica her credits for making Navarro what it is. She almost comes off a little cold to me. And maybe that's just because I'm a super like bubbly, friendly person. But again, you can't completely judge off of, you know, a screen. I did kind of like her honesty sometimes. Like, when they were doing that little sit down watching the video and that guy was like, I don't think we need to be talking about other teams. When you focus on other teams, she said, who's talking about other teams? Since when? All y'all need to worry about yourselves. Like, you just want to talk just to talk. I thought that was hilarious. So I liked her honesty at points, and she was kind of like, let's just cut to the chase. So the next person is Maddie. Maddie's a rookie cheerleader who was introduced this previous season or this season, and her story was rough. A lot of the girls had some very tough stories. Her father went to jail for the R word, can't say it on YouTube, and her family kind of struggled financially for that. And they were really able to humanize and touch us with those stories, and I liked how they didn't lead with that. They let us know that person as the person. So you're not trying to put like a label or trauma on somebody off rip. They kind of let us get to know these people, and then they peel those layers back. And I like that because everybody isn't just their trauma. And I really liked her. She was a great all-around cheerleader. She was a great dancer, a great performer. I could never take my eyes off of her when it came to that performance portion. She was very hard on herself that first season, you know, when she wanted to be a flyer, and, you know, it was amazing that she even was on Matt. So from the outside looking in, you kind of were looking like she seems a little ungrateful. Like, they didn't take her off of Matt. They took her off of flying. But I do understand if you were in that position and you've worked so hard for it, it can be frustrating. Some other people who made their return was Morgan. Morgan was like a fan favorite from the first season. So like people like Kendall Jenner even like shouted her out. Like, she's my favorite. She was probably doing some of the most stuff out of the last cast. You have Lexi. Lexi was very like, we need to start a YouTube channel because you can make a lot of money. I raised my price. Like, Lexi was about the hustle. She was like, let me figure out how I'm gonna make money and get this together, which I respect, but it was very clear that she was like, yeah, I'm about to milk this. Now the next person about is Gabby Butler, cheer royalty. I used to be very into cheer. I used to cheerlead when I was younger. Then I quit because I wanted to dance more. But Gabby, I used to watch that series on Awesomeness TV, Callie, Moed, Gabby was on the team and she was a beast and has always been a beast. And I know she's extremely popular in the cheer world. So I've always been kind of into her journey. So I was so excited to see that she was coming back again. And she's definitely going to be facing some controversy after those, you know, the Jerry portion, which we will talk about. But I kind of get confused because she went back home and then she came back and then she flies here and she cheers at this gym. I'm like, how does this work? And her parents genuinely do support that. But I'm like, it kind of seems like she's spreading herself thin. Then you have Ladarius. You know, you either love Ladarius or you hate Ladarius. To be honest, I don't think that's necessarily true. I like him and I see that he's flawed and he's the first to say that, like we all are. But I like him. I do. I didn't love how he handled the Monica situation. He kind of felt like Monica went Hollywood when it came to Dancing with the Stars, and I'm gonna talk a little bit more about some of those conflicts. But I don't think he needed to go public with it in the way that he did, because that is humiliating and kind of defamatory a little bit. You know, hurt people, and I think he was valid in some of the way he felt, but just the way he went about it was really petty. Not surprising. Cassidy and Jillian, we'll talk about them real quick. They kind of became standouts. I think it was that second year. But I loved their friendship, and immediately I recognized Cassidy because she was on Toddlers and Tiaras and she was on Cheer Perfection. I told y'all, I used to watch this stuff, so this isn't new for me. But then they like later touched on it in the series and I was like, okay, great. Because I was like, I'm not crazy. And then Jillian, their friendship was so sweet. It was so genuine. And it's so great to see like young girls at that age just really pour into each other and be so supportive. Jillian also had a very hard childhood. So Jillian has been through a lot. You know, Cassidy's just like a blessing, and Cassidy's family is a blessing for her. So that was really heartwarming. And now the tough stuff. We're going to get into Jerry. I want to talk about this very sensitively. I remember hearing about the SA allegations that Jerry was facing like a year or so ago, and confusing to see him in so much of that first part of the docuseries. I think that you could tell they tried to cut him out just a little bit, but I think it was kind of undeniable that they kind of had to show him when they were talking about Navarro's successes. I appreciated that Cheer did a specific episode on Jerry. I felt like it was necessary. I understand why they didn't outright come out about Jerry like first episode and get into it right away, because chronologically they had came back, they had had their season, and then this happened in the midst of that. I was really glad they gave a platform to the young boys that were SA'd by Jerry, and I didn't know all of the details of what had happened. And there was some advocacy going on in this episode, which was really important. Jerry's facing a minimum, guys, a minimum of 15 years. Let me say he admitted to talking to like over 15 to 20 minors. It was extremely disturbing. He was very disturbed. Season 1, you know, if I wasn't doing cheerleading, I'd be out here hurting people, all of this stuff. And it's like behind closed doors, he was hurting people, right? He was being abusive. Now, the part that gets dicey. So we have to talk about Monica and Gabby's reaction. And the reason why I say this is social media, Twitter has been kind of buzzing about it, and a lot of people are very upset and pissed at their response. Now, the woman who was Larry Nassar had abused her. She was talking about advocacy and how she was representing the young boys. And she was very hard on Monica because Monica was slow to respond, and then her response wasn't really standing with the boys. So I see what the lady was trying to say, because for you to say respect our privacy as our family mourns during this heartbreaking time, first off, nobody died. Jerry didn't die. He committed a crime. Respect your privacy. What about the privacy of the boys and the victims? Like, now all of them have to be very public. So reading the statement and actually like seeing it, I do think that she did not say things the best. And she said, like, you should say this. And as I agree, you know, you want everybody to know what to say perfectly at all times. Please don't take this wrong. You can't get in the mind of people and expect them to say and do exactly what you would do. I've never been in this situation, so I can't sit here and say. Now, Gabby's getting a lot of backlash because she expressed how she had a hard time grappling with the news. She felt like somebody had died. Honestly, I think the wording may have been wrong because she did say, you know, Jerry's like a family member to me, and she meant that. Like, a lot of the times with this cheer team, they say we're a family, and I think a lot of us look at that like that's BS. Like, you guys are just saying that. But until you're in that predicament, I guess you don't really know. Now, Ladarius was able to be like, if I had found out about that, his ass would have been beat. I don't care if we're friends. And I respect that energy. And that's really how it should be. In a perfect world, it should be like that. I was trying to have empathy for where everyone's coming from, but I do acknowledge that the empathy should really be with the victims. Both Monica and Gabby were kind of vulnerable and very raw talking about it and emotional. And they might have not had the right words to say. And she did condemn what he did. She did not say it was okay, but I do think she made a misstep saying that she'll always be there for him, because when somebody commits a crime like that.
And I stand very strongly in what I said. So it's more like a love the sinner, hate the sin type of situation.
What?
He's facing some serious crimes and he has a problem, like serial, like a problem. A lot of people were complaining that they portrayed Jerry in a positive light. I think they just kind of had to tell the story, guys. I think they wanted to show the juxtaposition of who Jerry was in front of everybody versus behind closed doors. And I think it rubbed people the wrong way. I think a lot of people felt like, hey, he should be completely X'd out of the series. And I understand that sentiment. I think the way that they handled it with a complete episode was appropriate. So even if you say, no, they wouldn't do that, you don't know people. You don't know what people are doing behind closed doors. So that was really tough. All right, so now we're going to get to TVCC. Vontae is the head coach. To be honest, y'all, I did not like his attitude at first.
My mindset was how I was in football. I'm out to destroy you.
I was not feeling it. I felt like he was cocky. I think there's a difference between being humble, cocky. He gave me more cocky and kind of bitter. And we learned later on that he really wanted to win. He really wanted these kids to win, and he wanted to push them to be the best they could. But he had history. He cheered for TVCC, and he feels like they had a shot at winning when he was back in school, and his stunt dropped. Keeps in the back of his mind. But I will say, I think he was competitive for good reason. I think that the docuseries panned out nicely, and it gave us a greater context as to why he is the way that he is. He has a tougher exterior and a shell because of how he was raised and how he grew up. And I do have to say, I resonated more with his coaching style. Like, if I was a cheerleader and I would want to choose a coach, I would probably choose Vontae. They even highlight his football and sport background and how he got into cheerleading, which I think is interesting. There's a perception that everybody, or all boys who cheer, like started doing it when they were wee tall, wee high, or they're gay. Common perception in dance. Activities don't have to be gender exclusive. Now, Jada. When she was first introduced, that docu-series came in hot. They made a villain out of her very quickly. They did a poor job of introducing her. The way that they did kind of the Navarro girls is, hey, we're going to start them off light. We're not going to get into their trauma too quick. We're going to show them and kind of, portray them how they're, sweet girls they are. Jada, they portrayed her like the B word of the team off rip. Like, she was yelling at them. And we didn't even know their relationship. So I have to say, I was put off by her immediately. I was like, who is this girl? And who died and made her boss? Okay. My mind started to change about that as we were offered more context. And this is why in real life, you have to be very careful to not quickly judge people before you have more of an idea of somebody's background, their history, and what they've been through. But I did end up liking her and appreciating what she brought to the team. That second season, she definitely softened up. She was a lot more of a team player. If I was on the team and if I was a freshman that first year, I'd be like,
Mira, first of all, what you're not going to do is do that.
She better stay away from me because we're going to have problems. But she definitely softened up. And They gave us an insight on her childhood and her parents getting a divorce and her mom getting laid off and her having this flipping kind of block. I think some people probably still found her annoying, but I appreciated her spirit, and she really was like motivating that team, and I respected it. Next is D. D was on the 2021 team. He was a kid who just loved to tumble and just so happened to end up doing cheerleading, but he never wanted to consider himself a cheerleader. And people were kind of attacking them for this, the weenies, right? These straight boys who were on the team who were too shy, or not even shy, but prideful to perform because they felt like it was gay. However, I think once we start really talking about how these structures have been built to victimize all of us in a way, because these are young men, right? They're still finding themselves, and they're young Black men. Black people are often masculated. Black women are often masculated, and Black men are definitely masculated. I'm not saying it's an excuse. And I do like how the story touched on that masculinity aspect and the stigma behind cheerleading, how people feel like it is gay. And the boys did talk about how, you know, they don't want to come off as feminine, like I'm a dude. And the boys talk about how a lot of the choreographers who come in choreograph in a way that is in a more feminine manner, or they are gay choreographers. And I think that's valid for them to say that's an observation. Performing is not gay, though. I will say they need to get that real quick. Cheerleading is not gay. Vontae, you know, I think he was a good coach and mentor to them, because he was that guy, All-American. You play basketball, you play football. He did all that. And then he transitioned to that cheerleading lifestyle. So yeah, I mean, it was hard for him to pull out of the performance. During the performance at NCA, he was like, I was like, you know what? He gave his own little flavor to it. And I do think that's important. Individuality. Everybody has masculine and feminine energy. I believe that. But nobody should have to conform to whatever, right? So he added his own sauce to it. So I like D, and I want to follow his stories. Then you got Angel Rice. Again, I was a cheerleading fan in my teenage years. So I knew of Angel Rice. And in the previews, when I saw she was show, I was like, shit, they about to be unstoppable. TVCC, that second season, was unstoppable. I knew Navarro wasn't gonna win if TVCC hit a perfect routine, because the people that they had on that team, and I have to say, TVCC they wanted some of that Navarro sauce, because they got the same choreographer. I don't think they were trying to hide it, but they have to admit, like, they had to switch it up. It was not on TVCC's merit of keeping it very TVCC. They had to get new choreography and kind of mimic that high energy Navarro style that they're famous for. And they kind of had to steal their sauce a little bit. I'm not going to lie. Navarro's cold. And I love Navarro. I do. And I like TVCC. I do. I really grew up to like them. But TVCC, y'all got to be real. You were trying to kind of dip from the sauce a little bit. But you guys had people on your team that second year that undeniable, bomb. The way that the docuseries was kind of set up overall, I found myself rooting for one team at the beginning and then finding myself kind of rooting for another team towards the end. I really was happy for TVCC when they won. Yeah, following COVID, the teams did come back. The new rookies who were on the Navarro team got shit. Like, they didn't get nothing, and what they did get was shit, okay? Monica left for Dancing with the Stars. So a lot of these rookies who had signed on were like, we want to come to Navarro for Monica because she is one of the best coaches in the country. Come to find out, she's doing Dancing with the Stars. It was just a mess. The girls were like, we have these assistant coaches. We don't have Monica. All this drama with Ladarius is coming up. You know, the Jerry case, like, now everybody's talking shit about Navarro because of everything going on, and that really sucked. And they were also stuck with COVID, so they couldn't cheer at games, they couldn't do all of this stuff. I do think Navarro would have beat TVCC that 2020 championship. I do, and it is unsettling how we never got to get that match. I'm really disappointed in that, but I think that they would have won. But that 2021 team was virtually impossible to beat. I mean, I think their final score was like a 98.8 something. And they had no mistakes during their routine the second day. Navarro had no routine mistakes the first day, but the second day they did. First day counts as 25% of your score. Second day is the majority. So TVCC was winning. They crushed it. And Navarro's gonna have to work really hard for whatever next season. Say, just wrapping up the video. Navarro just had too many distractions and they became celebrities. It kind of was just the death of the team. And I hate to say that, and I hope that there's a season 3 so that we can see it come back. But they're going to have to work like hell because right now they're in their curse era. Their villain era, because that was a mess. I love the series and I think that TVCC was an excellent addition. And I really would not mind if next season revolved more so around TVCC. That might be an unpopular opinion. Comment down below. But I have to give season 2 like a 9 out of 10, guys. This season was good. It was great. And I liked it a lot more than I liked the first season. The first season I liked, but when they were getting so much buzz about it, I have been watching cheerleading for years. So I know a lot of people were fascinated with the cheer world, but I kind of already knew a little bit about it. I liked it, but it didn't have that pizzazz that a lot of people were talking about to me. I feel like this season is what season 2 was what season 1 was for a lot of people. This season was the fuck good. So that's my thoughts on Cheer. I'm sad that it's over. Hopefully we don't have to wait another like 2 years for it. Comment down below, do you agree with my sentiments? Please hit that subscribe button down below if you want to see more content like this. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.